From the block to the boardroom, from the pulpit to the pew, the CQ podcast exists to help you raise your cultural fluency by discussing how culture touches everything from a Christian worldview. Just like a fish swims in water, we swim in culture. And today we swimming with Charnise, Mangle, ladies and gentlemen. Back on the podcast. I'm excited. As you know, Will Plunk, Executive Director of CQ Initiative, lead pastor of Grace City Church. Yeah. But Charnise Mangle is here again, and we're excited because today we're talking about bridge building. And what does it look like to intentionally, with tools, the kind of wherewithal we need to have to be able to build bridges with people from different backgrounds and cultures, organizations. I think you are especially good to be on the podcast for this conversation because my girl has relationships on relationships, serves on boards like almost nobody I've ever met. So, but Charnise Mangle, how you feeling today before we get in?
You know, every time I'm a bit nervous every time, it's uncomfortable to have a mic in front of your face and be like, we're rolling. It's live.
If we here. And it is. We got the whole thing set up.
But I'm excited to be here and to have this conversation. You know, I do think building bridges is really important. So when you talked about the topic, I'm down.
Yeah. Let's go. So I wanted to start off and kind of read what I think is the premier bridge building passage from 1 Corinthians chapter 9.
Okay.
This one really is it, and I think sets the stage for our conversation well. So this is the winsome passage, and Paul writes this. He says, though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, though I myself am free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak, I became weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. And I like how he ends it. He says, I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessing. And what I like is clearly he is intentionally building bridges with Jews, with people not under the law. Historically, it's ethnic, but it's also a religious piece where he's saying, I'm willing to give up particular freedoms that I have or comforts that I have that I might be able to come in, build a bridge with somebody else to love them for the gospel. But I like the ending because the ending, he goes, that I might share in the rich blessings of the gospel. Yeah. He's like, not only is it for you, but when I build bridges, there's a blessing that comes to me. So I love that passage. Yeah.
That's good. I like that too. That's nice. I can't say it. When you said where you were reading, I was like, it didn't pop into my mind naturally. But as you started to read it, I was like, oh, I know how this ends.
Yeah.
To your point. Yeah, that I'm doing all this for a reason. It's not for no cause.
Right.
There's a purpose behind it.
And I think as we were talking offline, one of the things we talked about from the jump is, and he talks about like the idea of giving up particular freedoms to build bridges.
Yeah. And
so I'm curious when it comes to you and some of the organizations that you've served on, or just relationships. You have a very diverse friend group. And so maybe talk some about that too. But what kind of freedoms or comforts or willingness to even be offended have you given up in an attempt to build bridges with other people?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think what naturally kind of comes to my mind or pops into my mind first is just like, comfort is like sometimes, everyone wants to be comfortable. Everyone wants it to go smoothly and not have hiccups, along the road, not have arguments or have tension. And I think I love to say, well, we just got to hold the tension sometimes in relationships and figure out how to navigate through it. And is this person worth it for you to navigate through it? And so I think the things that I've personally had to give up is, like you said, being easily offended. There are things that are said sometimes while building a bridge that you just kind of have to take on the chin. And what does that look like? And how do you do that and still honor yourself and being authentic to yourself and communicate also to the person that you're trying to build this bridge with that they have offended you and potentially offended you greatly, but you're willing to navigate again through this hurt, through this offense. Hold the tension with them and see, you know, where can we go from here? Is it possible to continue forward and to build that bridge? And I think when we decide to do that, both parties can be blessed
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways. But I would definitely have to say I've had to give up my own comfort and not being easily offended, um, and being willing to um, speak directly to an issue. I think
Yeah.
sometimes that can be really hard too, because some of the stuff you might want to say right off the cusp, is going to be like fighting fire with fire,
Mm.
and is that going to be helpful?
Yeah.
So if your end goal is to be a bridge builder, and sometimes you shooting off at the cuff about what you really might think and how you really want to say it, that's going to be a lose-lose.
So that's tough, right? Because like, how do you know, or how have you managed? Like, when are you not being authentic to yourself, or when an attempt to build a bridge, do you feel like? Because here's the tension, right? Like, let's say black person in a majority white space at times,
Mm.
and to go, somebody says something, like, is this a moment I go, I just take it on the chin, or is this a moment I stand up? Is this a moment, like, how do I navigate some of those tensions that show up in that space, whether it be representing black folk or even just being authentic to yourself? And I think that's one of the challenges with bridge building. One of the things, like we've said a lot, and I had an older pastor say this to me one time. He's like, if you're building bridges, that means you're going to be walked on by both sides.
Yes.
It's like there's a way in which, really, regardless of the context you're coming from, you're trying to lead your people to a place maybe not everybody has been.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to be walked on that side. And then as you're going to the other side, like, and even I think about Paul, that he was misunderstood by the Jews.
Yes.
As a Jewish man
Ooh,
going
yeah.
to the Gentiles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and so there's this whole deal in Acts 15
Mm-hmm.
where he's like, okay, and he's like, no, I've been with the Gentiles. I've seen what they're like, and I'm trying to report back. But there can be tensions to know, okay, am I being true? Because I think for any person of color in particular, it can be challenging to go, okay, am I just being a doormat?
Ooh.
And is this, like, should I be walked on in this moment? Or is this a moment I need to stand up and say something? I'm in to build a bridge, but how do I discern or decipher through some of those tensions?
Well, yeah, I think again, it's going back to the purpose of the end of the
Okay.
scripture that you read, right? It's what's the doormat's purpose is to take mud off of people's shoes, right, and dirt that you don't want, right, so that they can walk into somewhere clean, right, or as clean as they can be into that home, right?
Dang.
That's the purpose of a
That's
doormat,
true,
right?
that's
Is to get
true.
that mud off and that stuff off my feet. But a bridge's purpose is not for you to be going scraping back and forth with your feet to get what's on them off. It's the purpose of it is to go from one place to the next, right? And then to go back potentially from where you came. Like, I've been to New York a lot of times, and I really love the Brooklyn Bridge and walking across that. It's a very long bridge, but oftentimes I'm staying in Brooklyn. So when I walk across it, I also have to turn around and walk back, or at some point I got to do something to get back. And so that's the purpose. And so, but it connects me to another place, right? So you get off on one end, and where you started is not the same situation maybe of where you're ending. And then you get to bring back and show everybody, oh, this is where I went on the other side. And I'm, like you're saying, reporting back. I think everyone, if they're going to be a bridge builder, has to be clear about what their purpose is, and can they handle that, right? Can you handle the weight, like a bridge does handle the weight of all these people walking on it at one time? And so, and it's going to come with a lot of additional things that sometimes you anticipate and sometimes you don't. And so I think you just really need to be clear about that purpose. And yeah, it's hard. Like, how do you know when to say, am I being treated as a doormat, though I'm trying to be a bridge builder? I
Can
don't
I
know.
jump in right here?
Yes.
Because what you said something like was making me think, because you kept going on that illustration of doormat versus bridge.
Yeah.
And to your point, there's purpose. Like, in a bridge has a different purpose. It's not just to get the mud off, it's to go somewhere. So it made me think, in building bridges, when you're building a bridge to somewhere else, if that person has no desire to walk it as well, then you don't
Oh yeah, that's a
then it
wrap.
is done.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just saying stuff out of pocket with no desire to actually meet me where I am, no desire to actually understand my culture, no desire to be a part of a cross-cultural experience at all,
Mm-hmm.
well, then, yeah, like, we're done.
Yes.
There
Yeah.
there's no purpose in
Correct.
continuing it, so I actually don't need to just sit here and take it in the same way. Like, Paul
Correct.
even had purpose for why he was going to the Jews and the Gentiles and not those not under the
Yes.
law. So, to me, I was like, "Oh, that's actually crazy insightful if you think about it," because it's like, when they say the thing,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were just talking about this, when they say the thing that's like, "Yeah," or you receive the offense,
Yes.
can you graciously check them on it, and are they willing to listen and learn?
A
That
hundred
was some of the
percent.
things I don't know if you got stuff
100%.
there
Because if
too.
we're not on that same page, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know. So I even think about actually one of the boards that I am on. There has been some kerfuffles and some
What a word.
feathers have definitely been ruffled
Okay, yeah.
with different things that have been said by one of the board members, and I think that they are not meaning to offend ever. Like I do not think that that is on purpose at all, but oftentimes just how they are and how they choose to communicate and how they have regularly been able to communicate and that has gone unchecked has allowed them to say certain things in a certain tone of voice or what have you that is not being received by others. And sometimes that's not it has not even necessarily been the people us receiving the offense have not necessarily been different from the culture of the person who is giving it
Okay.
necessarily
Yeah, yeah.
initially. And but it's been interesting, and I think for me something that as a black woman in the room who's observed this, because I have not been the by and large most of the instances I have not been the on the receiving end um of the discomfort. I've just been observing it, and I see what everyone is saying. I understand why they're upset. However, what I think has always been interesting to me is that is the how offended the other people are,
Huh.
given that they are of the same race and of the same sex as the
Oh,
person.
interesting.
And yeah, that has been very interesting to observe for me. And I've often thought, is that because, culturally, they have never had to be on the receiving end
Ooh, of the
of the
offense.
offense.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly, as a black woman in predominantly white spaces, on the receiving end. And so I've been forced to, out of the situations, figure out how to navigate these things and also to navigate them by keeping my composure, staying calm, and being able to clearly articulate whatever is going on.
Mm.
Because if I fail to do that, then it's going to be a real issue.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to me sometimes watching it. I'm just like, oh, you guys just haven't stretched that muscle. And yes, what's happening is an offense. However, I think you are maybe overblowing it, and like you haven't figured out how to cogently come to this person and have a conversation in a way by which they're going to receive it and be willing to change.
Yeah.
And I feel like, it one time when I was on the receiving end, I was able to speak to that person and they received it and we have never had a problem again. But I think because I know how to navigate it and I have earned the right to be heard, I have built in a relationship with this person before the offense happened. And so when it did happen to me, I was able to speak to it in the moment and then also to circle back and speak to them again
Call
about
back
it.
to the
Yeah,
last
I had
part.
to call them back.
I love it. And that's good. So it's like you're putting deposits in. Like you're putting the
Yes.
deposits in before the moment ever happens.
Yes.
And I actually think to build a bridge, it is like those moments of offense and being able to handle those. But to your point, it's actually having valued relationships enough to start the bridge building process to begin with.
Correct.
It's like you've logged the time to some degree with whatever people group. One of the things we say at CQ a lot is cultural humility.
Yes.
Like, are we aware of kind of in some ways our cultural background, but the limitations of it? Like, just because we're humans and we're both humans, doesn't mean I understand your culture, your background, your personality like that. So I
Hmm.
need to have humility to take some time and learn you,
Yes.
to understand you. Where are you coming from? Because you might say something, and if I know more about your background, it actually would even change the way I receive the offense that you might be saying it. Like, I
Yes.
have some friends who say some out-of-pocket stuff,
Yes.
but because I know them like that,
Hmm.
I know in some ways, not that we don't need to have conversations, but, like, that's who you are. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's who you
Yeah.
are, and so, like, let's talk about it, and I actually know, because I know more about you, that you actually do love people differently than you really will.
Yes.
And I actually know places of your life where you've paid the cost to build bridges.
Yes.
Whereas other people, it's like, not so much. I don't know you, so in some ways, it's easier for me to be offended. But I am
100%.
curious, one of the things you said too is like building that tolerance for offense that you have, that you feel like some people maybe from other contexts who haven't experienced the same offense have. And I think that's a big thing with bridge building, right? It's like you have a tolerance to be walked on to some degree. Um,
Mm.
but like that's cost you, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
to like build that tolerance.
Oh, to build it? Oh, 100%.
Yeah, like cost you personally.
Yeah, when we
Yeah.
when you said earlier about just in the scripture, it almost sounds like he's being a chameleon. Like I
Mm,
think that people could read that and be
yeah.
like, "Do you know who you are?
Mm,
Or are you just trying to be like other people? Like
mm,
what's really going on here?" And I think, early on, I didn't know myself as well as I know myself today, right? When I sit here right now, I'm older, I'm wiser, I've had more
yeah.
experiences, right? And so I can speak to you today and I can walk in my truth and with clarity and authenticity and truth of who I am in a way that I haven't always been able to, you know? I've always been a confident person, but I think maybe, 15 years ago or in college or in high school, even post grad, there were times where I wasn't really sure and I wouldn't have had the language to speak directly to something, but I knew how it made me feel
Mm,
and I know what I wanted to achieve, but I wasn't necessarily able to because I didn't really know who I was. So I think it's really important for you to know deeply who you are,
that's good.
so that when things happen, you can, um, instead of being offended and not really knowing, okay, how do I move forward? You know this is why this offended me. This is where it hurt me. And this is how I'm going to be able to move forward because I can so clearly see it all. Like, I really, I'm struggling to find the like words that I really want to say. But like, when I think about, I guess, an example, um, what comes to mind is just like my collegiate experience, like the
Okay.
way that I went through my collegiate experience at Clemson University, a predominantly white university, as a Black woman, and the way that I moved through my professional career as a teacher in predominantly white teaching environments at both of the schools that I've taught in. Um, they're very different. And it's because when I was in college, I was figuring out who Charnise was.
Mm,
And as a worker in these schools, I know who
that's
Charnise
good.
is. And even though, yeah, I'm still learning, I'm still changing every day, but I have a clear sense of whose I am
Amen.
and like why I'm there and what my purpose is at the workhouse, right? And so when something happens, I'm able to clearly speak to it and be very unapologetic about it. And that's very helpful. But yes, early on, yeah, you getting knocked in the mouth and you trying to figure out where up is and trying to figure out is there anyone around to really help me,
She
you
said
know?
she'd throw hands, ladies and gentlemen, in case you wondering. No, that's really good. Like I think that self-awareness,
Mhm.
I've heard it said unprocessed trauma is easily triggered.
Mm.
And it is also probably true of our background. Like when we are not aware of ourselves,
Mm.
like have a godly confidence, not a
Yes.
hubris that's overly inflated, but
Yes. It's
one that
not
goes,
bravado.
I know, and I call it whose I am. Like I know who that I'm the Lord's. I know who He's made me to be. So now I can, when I'm offended, it actually doesn't offend to the same degree. Or
Yes.
when I call you out,
Yes.
it's not at a place of insecurity.
Yes. Exactly.
Because sometimes that's, I think, what it's birthed in is like, sometimes you're like, you trying to build a bridge. So you go, I'm actually, this is the moment I'm gonna correct you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say it in a balanced way, like, hey, are you open?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can I give you some feedback?
Yes.
And then you enter into that conversation. And to your point, it's not just like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not just I'm just so angered
Yes.
or I'm so triggered that I'm just kind of bursting forth.
Well, it's
And again, sometimes it's like rightfully so. Maybe something has been deeply offensive or someone did something very
Mhm.
outlandish and it was very hurtful and it needs to be processed and it needs to be dealt with. But I do think the more growth we like as a bridge builder to focus on, like, I also have to grow myself
Mhm.
to be able to do this work. It can't just be about helping them. It actually has to be about becoming more mature, and
100%.
self-aware. Yeah.
Because it comes out of like, again, back to the scripture, the purpose of why he was even doing any of these things.
Mhm.
He went and became like and knew how to conduct himself in these different instances with these different types of people, because I'm here because of my father,
Yeah.
right? And so when I want to be enraged or I want to be upset, and really respond out of that, I have to first check myself and say, is this what God would want? Is this what Jesus would want from me? Is this why he's sending me here? And when you ask yourself that, the answer is 100% going to be a no. And so then you got to just settle and you got to understand that you're having a human emotion, and that's okay. First
Yeah.
of all, you can't
Uh,
blame it, like try to blame it away or say that, oh, I can't feel these, like, I really, really do not like when Christians try to be like, you can't have feelings, you can't have emotions. No, you can have feelings. You can definitely have emotions. You just have to put them in their proper place,
right.
and you have to work through the
That's
feelings
good.
of them, and and do your best to not allow them to overtake you when you're trying to be productive, if you want, because they're not going to be as productive if that's you're just going to speak out of the emotion that you're currently having.
Yeah. No, that's complete. That again, I think that's great, and definitely a huge part of bridge building is that self awareness, identifying emotion, but not being driven by emotion. It's like emotions are biblical. Read the Psalms.
Yeah.
But I think that to not always be driven by them and to not be unaware of what emotion is driving you.
Yeah.
One of the things too, just in bridge building, I think oftentimes for POC, uh, for people of color, it is more likely people of color have experience with majority culture because we're in America. And so, like, most Black people and people of color have experience with white culture,
Hmm.
but it's less common for, and plenty of white people do have experience with different, cultures of color, but it is often very likely for them to not. And so I think that's one of the reasons why the offense can feel disproportionate.
Mm.
And I think people don't sometimes, like sometimes with race conversations, people want everything to be equal,
Hmm.
and I think it's almost a product of we feel like civil rights movement has happened. Things are more just than they used to be. So it's like things should be equal. Like if you can be racist, I can be all this kind of stuff, right? But with offense can be that way too. Like, oh, well, like I'm gonna be offended as a white person.
Mm.
But I also go, well, think about the context we're in. Like it's more likely the white people have less context with Black people. And so that's why it's more likely for a Black person or a person of color to be offended
Hmm.
and the white person to offending. Now it can go both ways, but I'm talking about on cultural matters.
Yes.
But one of the things I was thinking on is that I think if you're a white person listening to build a bridge, you actually, and this might sound bad, but you have to be okay with offending.
Yes.
And there's not a license to go
Hmm.
to be like, yeah, you can offend people. That's not
No.
what I'm saying.
No.
I just mean to grow, you have to be able to put yourself in context where you will misstep and know that's gonna be okay.
Hmm.
Like to your point, you've existed in a lot of white spaces and you've built endurance.
Hmm.
And I've felt when white people misstep with me and apologize and work through stuff, I'm like, oh, cool. No big. Like so often, I'm like, oh, not a big deal.
Hmm.
Like
Yes.
so much of the time for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool, yeah. Like it ain't nothing.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's something, but a lot of times it's like, no, like whatever.
It's like
And it's like, but sometimes I can see it. Like I have seen a white person like crumble
Mm.
before me because they feel like they say something that's slightly racist or offensive to me. Just they punish.
Mm.
And I'm like, but then what can happen? Unknown. What can happen is then the black person, you know what I'm about to say, can feel like I need to make you feel better.
Oh, now
You
you
see what I'm
become the
saying?
victim.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so then it kind of ends up being this whole cycle and all that
Oof,
kind of stuff.
yeah, and
So
that's not going to be good. That's not going to end well.
yeah,
I think of it as like failure,
yeah,
being okay with failure.
yeah,
And you have to fail. You have to fall down so that you can get back up again.
mhm,
And so yeah, definitely I think that a white person definitely has to be okay with failing as they attempt to move closer in relationship and be a bridge. And in relationship on different levels. It could be a coworker relationship. It can be a
yeah,
friendship relationship that's, outer circle. It could be friendship inner circle. It could be church. Like there are a myriad of relationships that we have with people, and in that we are, yeah, the offense is oftentimes going to happen more so at the hands of the white person because they have not lived the experiences or had to live in a counter way by and large, right? They
yeah,
haven't lived in predominantly black spaces or Asian spaces or Hispanic spaces where they've had to figure it out and navigate it, right? And also when you think about people who have lived are white and have lived in those spaces, they did navigate those and they probably failed a lot, but they failed early on as children, right?
mm,
And then
that's
they
great.
grew up and then they knew how to navigate themselves and comport themselves with that particular cultural group.
Yeah,
That's the same thing that has happened for a lot of as for myself, I can only really speak for me as a black woman who has lived in predominantly white spaces, both growing up in the suburbs, the high schools, the colleges, the workplace that I've been in, all predominantly white spaces. And so I know how to comport myself around predominantly white culture because I have been experiencing this all this time. And so yeah, it's gonna offend, especially when you're trying to grow relationships. And it's like, yeah, it's like I don't want to say it's okay and
yeah,
give people like a license, like you were saying, to offend, but I'm just gonna say it's just gonna happen.
it's gonna happen.
And what you have to be more concerned about instead of being right or not failing is just knowing that it's going to happen and how am I going to respond when it happens?
That's good.
How am I going to pick myself up, right? And not require or ask that the person of color pick me up
Yeah,
and console me,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
How am I going to work towards reconciliation? And how am I going to ask the Lord to guide me on that journey
mm.
instead of asking that the person that I have offended guide me on some journey?
And it's like when there is this, if you fall apart at offending somebody else, in some ways you want to ask why does it affect me so deeply?
Mm,
Like, do I have an image of myself that like I'm this perfect bridge builder that never offends, or I'm the most woke person in this situation or whatever, right? Like to
mm,
where I'm never gonna make a mistake because, and sometimes it's we struggle with perfectionism, and that's just might be just who you are, right? Like you just struggle
mm-hmm,
with perfectionism, but sometimes it's you have this image of yourself, and then when you fail in the racial conversation, you fall apart.
mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I pastor a multi-ethnic church, do this work, and like I literally have failed plenty of times
We all
racially.
do.
Yeah, like I mean, I have receipts of times people like, hey, listen, this was offensive to me, and like you did not mention us at
Mm,
all at this table. Like, were you considering us? And I have had my reasons, but at the same time, like, yo, I'm sorry, like I wasn't, and we made a mistake, and I feel that way as a church. Like I have a lot of failures
mm.
on the journey of learning, you know, um, because I think it's tough work building
Oh,
bridges,
100%.
and I think like maybe last thing to talk through is just there are some differences culturally,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's just important to understand whatever context you want to build a bridge in, like come with a level of humility and come as a learner.
Yes.
It's like if I enter into a place, and this is
Mm-hmm.
really anywhere, do I just assume I understand it to its 100%, or am I coming in to go, let me understand this family dynamic? We went in like, do I understand how this family network works? Do I understand how this cultural group works, this church works, this board works? Do I understand these kind of things? And if I come in as a learner, it gives me a space to build a bridge in a way where like I'm actually hitting the point where the bridge needs to go, rather than like kind of building over adjacent and the whole thing is crumbling because I've been building this way and the bridge really needs to be built that way. So I think that that level of humility and as a learner is like a important aspect of bridge.
100%. But well, humility will take you a long way.
Yeah.
And I think that it has to be learned, though, like because I feel like naturally the human condition, we want to be proud and we want to be boastful about what we can do and not be so teachable all the time is our natural inclination.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to fight against that, right? Especially when you're very known and known well for something that you do, be it your job or your hobby or whatever it is that you do and you do it well. So it's like, I have to now admit and face that I don't do something very well. And I have to be a learner and I have to be teachable and I have to be teachable potentially by a group of people that I haven't necessarily always valued or honored. And and then to have to realize when you start to do that what's the root cause work and start digging into that hole and seeing what's really going on and start to face some of the beliefs or narratives that you have held in your head about a cultural group that now is correcting you and you've never been corrected by this particular cultural group. That's something.
That's tough, man.
That's now you're learning your levels of this.
Yeah.
And that can be painful and hard. But again, you have to check yourself and say, how am I going to respond to this? And where am I going to get my strength from? Because clearly you don't have the strength to continue on. And so am I going to ask the Lord to, again, it's invitational. All this stuff is very invitational. It's like, am I going to invite the Lord in on this journey? And also, if I've offended someone or haven't even offended someone, I'm just building a bridge and I know that I might in the future offend someone. Am I still going to ask this person to come with me and to join me on really what is my own life's work, right? It's not work that they need to do, but in order for me to do the work, I need you to partner with me. You know what I mean?
I do.
So, yeah.
And I love what you're saying too. It's like bridge building is hard, and we need strength to do it. And so it's like
100%.
you're going to burn out in this game unless you get strength. So to your point, like being able to call on the Lord, have community, have some people who you feel like they in this work too, I think is what allows us to endure in bridge building work. But is it worth it?
It's 100% worth it.
It's 100% worth it.
Now, we'll have to say, though, you can't, everyone is not cut out for this.
You're right.
And that's okay. I want to be very clear about that, is that I always tell people, you could have fumbled the ball with me, and I'm glad you did that with me. But there are some Black women, I just speak again for myself, that I know some of my sisters, and they would have been like, there was no coming back from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I oftentimes when I'm helping someone, I'm like, listen, fumble with me as much as you can. You know?
No, that's good because it's like even having that level of honest conversation. And I think too, to your point, which you said earlier of like putting deposits in or like you already had the relationship with the guy, like to go, if you want to build a bridge to another culture, probably one of the first steps is you have a relationship with somebody from that cultural group or from that organization, board, whatever. And are you like putting the time in such a way where they could say something like, hey, you can actually feel with me. This is a safe place.
Exactly.
And that's really kind of what we all need.
Yes.
Because then you can go and be like, because you have a relationship with a cultural insider. Basically, they're on the other side of the bridge where you're trying to go and you're like, hey, listen, what do you think about this?
Yes.
I said this over here. They got me like that. Yeah, that was crazy. Well, I don't know. That was kind of interesting. They responded that way. You know, like you can even do some of that. And with the right relationships, it's like, yeah, of course, this is what we're doing.
Exactly. And also when you're building that relational equity, it's often about something that is not even related to the hard thing. Like my relationship with this person is regarding music. So it's like our enjoying of similar musical composition is our connection, and it has nothing to do with the hard thing that we do. over here.
Yeah.
And so I think don't take for granted. And this is why I always tell people, find a hobby.
Yeah.
Be interesting
That's great.
beyond the work that you do,
That's great.
because it's oftentimes the hobbies that you have. And I'm trying to be a collector of all the hobbies, as many hobbies as possible, because that's my on ramp oftentimes to building relationships. People often ask me, oh, how do you have such a diverse coalition of people that you call friend or associate or, around you or at work? And it's because I do so many different things for Charnise. I take care of me, and I think sometimes we neglect the personal work that we need to be doing, the personal work we need to be spending with the Father. And it's only through the overflow of that personal work that I am able to have the strength to do what I do out in the world, and out in the world connecting with people as well. The personal work that is not necessarily the reading scripture and praying relationship with the Father, but connecting with him in his creation
Yeah.
and the people that he's created, but also in the things that he has created through the people for us to enjoy,
Amen.
right? I love biking, I love writing letters, I love reading, and really also sometimes thinking about the fact that you might not love whatever thing it is, but because someone else loves it, right? You're going to try your best to figure out what intersectionality can I have with this thing.
That's
I do not like anime. I'm just going to be honest with
And
you.
I'm offended.
Yeah. And my
love
brother
it.
here, he loves it,
I
right?
do, I do.
And so many people in my life, they love anime, they love Korean things, like Korean pop culture is having a moment in America in a real
Yes.
way. And so many people that I love it. And it's not my thing necessarily, but I'm always trying to figure out, okay, where's their overlap
That's good.
and where can I jump in and have, a point of connection, because I know that one day that's going to come back around.
That's good. I think I love what you said. You said two things, and I think it's a good way to end. Like your personal health, being like your relationship with the Lord, but also hobbies. Like you need to be strong personally to be able to have energy to do this work. But then in that, realizing those are great opportunities to connect with people from different backgrounds. And even when you have a little bit of that ain't quite my thing, what does it look like for me to look for the connection point to say, oh, I can rock with you on that, and almost appreciate what they appreciate.
Yes.
Because I think that in some ways there's a little bit of love in that of just I can like it, get with it, understand it to some degree because you love it. And it's really because I love you.
Yes.
And so because of that, that creates this, again, compassion, but also strength to build a bridge on something that you might not even naturally rock with. But hey, it's been a good conversation.
Love it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on the pod, Charnise.
Yeah. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.